There are dozens of restaurants across the University of Illinois, all competing over the business of students on campus. To maintain a steady stream of revenue, restaurants must ensure that their ordering processes are optimal and that customers endure minimal wait times. We observed and simulated the Qdoba ordering process at the Illini Union basement in hopes of better understanding ways to reduce wait times and improve their bottom line. In this simulation, some of the entities and attributes include the line itself, which has a quantitative and static moving speed and is initialized at empty and idle when the Qdoba opens. Additionally, there are workers that perform at a specific processing rate, a quantitative and dynamic metric. These workers can either be busy or idle. Lastly, the customers are a key part of the system. We broke down further by splitting the customers into the queue versus customers who bulk. For this simulation, we will assume that students either order a bowl or a burrito. Here at UIUC, the customers are predominantly students looking for a delicious, affordable, and quick meal. Since we know that the price of a burrito and a bowl is $9.85, we can calculate the total anticipated revenue for a given day using our simulation. There are also a set of policies and laws that impact our system. Specifically, the price of $9.85 is a set law that can't be changed. Standard probabilistic laws also apply to our system. As for policies, we took into account the numbers of workers, which we typically assume was 2, shift size allocation, operational hours, methods of service, and bulking. By simulating the Qdoba at the Illini Union basement, we were able to get a better understanding of the ordering process and identify pain points in the system. One of the main goals of a restaurant is to improve its bottom line by serving as many customers as possible in a given time. Through our simulation, we were able to identify optimal times to add additional workers to drastically reduce waiting times while taking into consideration labor costs as well. To get a better understanding of the queuing and ordering process, we will now go through the line and demonstrate what it's like to order a bowl at Qdoba. I enter the line during a time in which there is a waiting period. I must wait for the employee to finish serving the student in front of me before I can get started with my bowl. Our assumption of 2 employees working at a given time can be observed at this instance. We also made an assumption that a burrito and a bowl take the same amount of time to make. As you'll find out soon, a burrito can actually take slightly longer to make. While the difference is minor, this could be one potential source of error with our simulation. Additionally, while our assumption of 2 employees generally holds true, there are likely times when Qdoba only has 1 employee or even 3 to 5. There are 3 sub-processes while ordering that can be observed. The first is when the individual asks the type of food that I want to order and offers a handful of base ingredients. The next step includes garnishing the dish with additional ingredients and sauces or salsas. The last sub-process is paying for the food. We consider the event to be officially finished when the customer either receives the receipt or if they opted to not receive one, we concluded the process when they began to walk away with their food. We now learn more about the process through an interview with a shift supervisor at the Qdoba.
I'm Samantha, I'm shift supervisor here.
Awesome. Thank you. And how long does that usually take for a customer to go through the line, would you say?
During lunch, maybe like 10 minutes.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
And then do you guys do anything to typically reduce the wait times during that kind of rush hour?
We usually have like 3 or 4 people on the line,
Okay.
so it just keeps getting pushed.
Sure. Okay,
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
And then what are some of the items that are a little bit faster to make, and then are there any that are a little bit slower that take longer?
Burritos are a little slower because
Okay.
they take time to roll. And
Okay.
sometimes they bust and tear, so you gotta redo them.
Sure.
Bowls are pretty easy. Tacos take a while.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so much.
No
Appreciate
problem.
it.
So now I'm going to talk a little bit about our event graph model. So like most event graphs, we started off with the initialization phase where we initialize all our variables. And then we go right into the enter with an inner arrival time modeled with an exponential distribution, which is shown here, and a clock, which the entire simulation people stop entering after 7 hours, which we modeled from 1 to 8, so 7 hours, and this is how much time elapses by seconds. From enter, you could either balk or start. So a start is automatically, if there's servers available, a start is automatically scheduled. But if the person balks, then the start is canceled, as shown with this canceling edge. In the start, we decrement the amount of servers available and the people in the queue. And we also keep track of the people who are buying bowls and people who are buying burritos. People who are buying bowls are a lot more, so we use a random number generator to make it so there's a higher probability that a bowl is ordered. From start, you can go to finish. And within the start phase, we keep track of how much time elapsed from when they entered to when they started. And then in the finish phase, we keep track of how much time elapsed from when they entered to when they finished service. And that is kept track to see how much time people spend getting their food. We also keep track of the revenue here. And both the bowl and burrito cost the same amount, so it was relatively easy to keep track of that revenue. Breaks could also be scheduled. So a break is scheduled every 3 hours, but the only way somebody could go on break is if there is at least one person available to serve a customer. And we use the indicator function to keep track of the breaks and the time delay for it. So the time delay for the breaks was either 0, 1, or 1 or 2 times 10,800 to see the availability, to see how long it takes for a break to be to happen. And then there is the S is greater than 1, which means there has to be more than one server. And breaks end within 10 minutes. Now, after we ran the simulation, we got an output, and this output, the key points is shown here. So with 2 servers, we got an average wait time of 66 seconds, while the average total system time was about 189 seconds, and that followed along very closely to what we saw in real life when we were watching the Qdoba line. The busiest time range was from 6 to 7 and 113 seconds it took to get to start ordering. And this is the amount of bowls that were sold, burritos that were sold. Now, and this was and we multiplied that by the price per bowl or burrito, and we got total revenue here. Now, our main point of our project was to see how feasible and how good it would be to hire somebody for an extra person to help with service. And we tested it for 2 servers and then tested it for 3 servers. And as you can see, there's a huge disparity between, especially during the busiest time period, between 2 servers and 3 servers. So kind of what our final conclusion is that for adding an extra server, it would be very beneficial to bring in a temporary employee from 6 to 7 for 1 hour, just because the average total time of the system and the average wait time, they don't decrease by that much, but the average wait time from 6 to 7, the busiest time period, decreases a lot. So really our main final point is hiring somebody from that 6 to 7 period would be very beneficial for Qdoba with their service times, and that could lead to higher revenue and better customer satisfaction. So this is kind of what we got out of our simulation, and a lot of it followed very well with what we saw in real life, and we were able to come up with a pretty reasonable recommendation for Qdoba.